more. I'm delighted to say we're joined live from Madrid by Ruairidh Barlow, the editor of Football España. Great to see you as always, Ruairidh. I mean, Hansi Flick there very much addressing the question that everybody's asking, top of the table, but not playing at their best. They've lost those big games, haven't they? The one against Real Madrid, against PSG, against Chelsea in the Champions League. What's been missing for them, do you think?
That's certainly the sword that has been held to Hansi Flick and Barcelona so far this season. I think the main talking point in Spain and in Barcelona this weekend was the kind of images of Hansi Flick on the bench at Camp Nou after beating Alaves at the weekend, where he was kind of looking disconsolate, looking very kind of heartbroken almost, and Rafinha having to comfort his own manager. And Flick said that he was kind of composing himself, that he was frustrated at the sending off of his assistant. But most of us are kind of reading that was a sign of the impotency that Hansi Flick is feeling, because for a long time these issues have existed. And we saw it kind of express his frustration earlier on in the season. Now we've kind of seen him kind of try some optimism, try and kind of encourage his players into improving their high line and their defensive frailties. But more recently, his kind of answer has been, well, when we get our best players back, then we'll look a lot better. But when the answer is basically we want our players who are injured back and that will improve things, it means that Hansi Flick seems to be kind of running out of answers as to how to adjust this high line and that pressure that worked well last season, but this season has got them into so much trouble.
And I guess the fear for him and his side heading into this evening is that they're playing a side very much who have hit their form after a wobble and a worrying start to the season. Atleti are the ones very much kind of pulling up the trees and making people sit up and take notice.
Yeah, absolutely, including the Champions League at 7 wins since Atleti lost to Arsenal. And Diego Simeone's side, we have to remember they've had a lot of turnover the last 2 years. And so 16 players have come in over the last 2 summers. So it's natural that their starts are going to be a little bit more shaky and they're going to look a little bit more clunky. But if you kind of want to zero in on two of the kind of biggest factors in their revival, so to speak, it's Koke and Jose Maria Jimenez, two of the kind of veteran players. Jimenez at the back has been kind of that leader that Atleti have needed to kind of really shore up their defence. And Koke has kind of rolled back the years and made himself into kind of the player he was 5-6 years ago and has really kind of improved their play on the ball. So, yeah, Simeone has kind of gone back to some of his old favourites, but now that he's kind of adjusted and integrated some of his new players, Alex Baena being the prime creator for this side now, they are looking a lot better. And after kind of Antoine Griezmann had a shaky end to the last season, I think they've now got a kind of new impetus with Baena at the helm of creation.
And I'm fascinated to get your take on this game taking place at the Camp Nou after the renovations. What impact is that having, if any, in terms of Barca and the atmosphere and the feeling?
It depends on which Barcelona fan you speak to, because I think many Barcelona fans are obviously very happy to be back at Camp Nou, and I think the stadium being not having a running track as Montjuic, their old ground that they were temporarily in, I think that makes a difference to the atmosphere. But Barcelona still haven't set up the singing section for their new stadium at Camp Nou as they kind of renovate it. They need to get more licenses in to kind of open it out a bit more. So without that singing section, there is, I think, a chance that you will hear some Atleti chants at Camp Nou this evening, but I think it's definitely still an improvement on Montjuic.
And of course, you hear the dissent when the home fans aren't happy. But I guess if there's anything going in Barcelona's favour at the moment, it's the murmurings of trouble at Real Madrid, who play on Wednesday. And we know when the briefings and the leaks all start happening, it's not going to be good. But what's your assessment of how serious the problems are there?
Yeah, we know that the shadow of anything happening at the Bernabeu tends to elongate a little bit longer than perhaps it is, but Xabi Alonso does need something to change. I think last week he made an attempt to get closer to the players. He kind of asked them what he could improve. He tried to kind of bridge the gap or make a bit more of a connection with them, because, as you say, there has been kind of a paper trail of reports basically saying that some of the star players aren't happy with his methods. I've been calling it a nuclear alliance this week because we've seen a bit more of the best Vinicius, and once you have the best Vinicius and the best Mbappe, you can kind of wipe teams out because they've got so much talent. But The question is, what did Alonso give up in those negotiations with the star players in terms of both compromise on the pitch, in terms of his approach, and in terms of kind of the authority in the dressing room that he has if he has to now kind of toe the line with his star players. So yeah, Alonso needs something to change. Ultimately, he had to do something to change the kind of dynamic because the mood is really affecting their form and the results. But yeah, what has he given up, and what are the consequences of those kind of come to Jesus negotiations that Alonso has had with his team?
Yeah, we wait to see. And with it being so tight at the top, there really is no room for manoeuvre, is there? And for the slide to carry on. Rory, thanks as always for your great insight.
Pleasure as always. Thanks so much.